All right, and what is going to be my last video of this calendar year? I want to cover some upcoming reissues. So these are going to be reissues that either come out in January or February of 2023. I'm going to add a little bit of a caveat. It's not that robust in terms of February. It's a little bit more in terms of January, but there's just like a couple of things that I definitely want to make sure I mention. I'll probably end up doing another one of these sort of upcoming, pre-order sort of videos later in January as well to cover anything that I might have missed. But again, a few things that I wanted to make sure that I covered. So yeah, there's a bunch here. I think some of these actually were supposed to be put out in December and they ended up getting pushed, but I want to cover them anyway. I've done other pre-order videos, but nothing here I don't think has been mentioned before. Also, I'm intentionally leaving out certain titles. And the reason why is because they're being put out by a bootleg label and I don't even want to give these titles the time of day. I'll tell you this: if you see, what is it? It's like it's a Dorothy Ashby title on Cadet, the Afro harping. I think it's being put out by like a Russian bootleg label. Red Clay is being put out by a Russian bootleg label. Pharaoh Sanders Towhead is being put out by the same label, and I don't want to. I just said it. I said I didn't want to mention it, and now I just said it. I'm not going to say. Well, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. It's being put out by Audio Clarity, and that apparently is not a legitimate label, and I would steer clear from those titles. So you can apparently get them on Amazon and Acoustic Sounds. I have no idea why they're stocking them, because generally speaking, some of these major retailers do not stock bootleg releases. These are like unauthorized, like who knows what the sources are, who knows if you're going to be able to return them. Again, I would just sort of steer clear. So let's get in though to the actual legitimate titles that are coming up in January and February, because I think that if you're going to put in a pre-order, now's a good time to do it if these titles mean anything to you. And I tell you what, I'm going to mention if these are actually ones that I'm going to pick up. Obviously, you should do whatever you want to do, but I'm not a completist for the most part on really any of these like modern reissues or like new releases and stuff. And so, like I don't pick up every tone poet. And so anyway, I'll mention if it's a title that I think I am particularly excited about. How about that? I'll try to do it as we go, or maybe I'll just do a summary at the end. We'll see. All right. So number one, the earliest that is coming out is actually coming out on January 6th. So coming up very, very soon. That's got to be, well, obviously that's the first Friday after New Year's. So it is a Blue Note Tone Poet series, and it is called Scolohofo. And the album title is called O. I personally think it's absurd that they call it that they call the band that, but I get it. It's John Scofield, it's Joe Lovano, it's Dave Holland, and it's Al Foster. And if you put their names together, that is the acronym you get. Again, I think it's silly, but in any event, that's what they recorded under. And here's the thing. I think the name is silly. I'm sure the music is great. It's obviously, it's being chosen for Tone Poet. I'm sure it's going to be a great release. I'm just making fun. So anyway, recorded in 2002. So this is a reissue. It's going to be on 180 gram vinyl, mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio from the original master tape, pressed at RTI. You've got a tip-on jacket, gatefold, $38.98. And again, that is on January 6th of this coming year. All right, so that's the first one, and actually the only one on the 6th. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say this, it's a little bit unusual for there to be brand new releases on the first Friday of the new year. So it's not that surprising, I suppose, that that's the only one I'm going to mention. So let's move on. The next one is Shelly, Manne and His Friends. So this is modern jazz performances of songs from My Fair Lady. So if you're familiar with Contemporary Records, this is one of those reissues that is part of Craft Recordings Contemporary Records series. I believe they're calling it, like the 70th anniversary series. This is being put out on January 13th of this coming year. And a very recognizable title. I've owned, a number of original pressings of this album. I'm frankly kind of surprised that they chose this. It is a great album. It's just that it's so freaking available in its original form. And so anyway, obviously if they chose it they thought that they might be able to do something with it, that should be reason enough to at least take notice and, you know, and at least consider picking it up. So 180 gram, this is the stereo edition, which generally speaking for contemporary records is what you want. This is part of, well, it's the Craft Recordings Acoustic Sound sort of partnership that they did. It is a all analog mastering from the original master tapes by Bernie Grunman, pressed at QRP. You've got the Stoughton tip-on jacket, and it is on sale for $29.99. Generally speaking, so far, I've been a big fan, big advocate of this Craft Acoustic Sounds partnership. I have not picked them all up, but I got the Hampton Hawes one. I got their, you know, their Art Pepper Record Store Day one, which, by the way, the stereo version of that is going to be appearing on this list as well. What else did I get? I feel like I got something else, and now I'm trying to recall. But in any event, the fact that they are tackling contemporary records, I think is particularly exciting. All right, something else on January 13th is Jeff Parker. This is a reissue of Jeff Parker's Slight Freedom, which is his debut album on Eremite Records. So again, second pressing. This thing, because Jeff Parker has become you know, so much better known, I suppose, as he has put out additional records, there's been a lot of interest on this original one, and therefore the price has gone up. So the fact that they're reissuing it, I think, is great for everybody. Keep in mind, this is not, you know, this is a reissue of a modern release. You're not going to necessarily get all the bells and whistles as if it was a reissue of like a very old release. So it is on 120 gram vinyl. Lacquers are cut by Steve Falone at Sterling Sound, pressed at RTI, and the price is $44.98. Also on January 13th, 2023, is Enrico, Rava, and Fred Hersch, and the title is The Song Is You. This is on the ECM label. This is actually a brand new release. So this was previously put out, I want to say, in December of 2022 in Europe. In the US, we get these ECM titles about a month later. So, you know, I suppose that's too bad we don't get it as early as we could, but we get it for a great price, $23.99. So another ECM title coming up on the same day is another name I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing, Oded Tzur. It's T-Z-U-R. You know, you can check out the cover here. The title is Isabela. This is a brand new release, again, previously put out in Europe on ECM. This is the US release date, $23.99. Got one more, actually. Similar credentials. This is by Tord Gustavsen, and it is called Opening. Again, put out in Europe already. This is the US release date, $23.99. ECM these days tends to do these very like kind of smooth, sort of modern sounding, you know, mixture of like jazz and like, what's the way to put it? Like this kind of like new classical sort of sound. Here's the thing, they sound great. Like I don't even mean to even suggest that I'm making fun of these releases. ECM does such a great job. They have great artists on their label, and I think a lot of that stuff is actually worth hearing. So that closes out January 13th, bunch of stuff, mostly ECM. Next up, Bobby Hutcherson. So this is going to be, anytime that Blue Note puts out a Bobby Hutcherson one, obviously I take notice, been taking particular notice of Tone Poet series. This happens to be in the Blue Note Classic Vinyl series. And the album that they are choosing is San Francisco. Fantastic album. This is being put out again on January 20th. 180 gram vinyl, in stereo, all analog mastering by Kevin Gray from the original master tapes, pressed at Optimal, and just $27.98. It is not the only Blue Note Classic series that's coming out that day. We also have Grant Green. Green is beautiful. And he is. 180 gram vinyl, all analog mastering by Kevin Gray, pressed at Optimal, $27.98. So a couple of Blue Note Classic series titles on the 20th. We have a few others on the 20th as well. So this one I personally think is particularly exciting. It is Tarika Blue, self-titled on Chiaroscuro. It is an Italian label, and actually the label that originally put out this album. Here's the thing. I know a price because it's on Amazon. It's $32.99. What I don't know is whether this is actually an official release. They're saying that it's being put out by Chiaroscuro Records. However, their website doesn't say it, their Instagram doesn't say it, and I'm just looking for confirmation. I actually have a coworker, I've mentioned this in a prior video, who has appeared on the other Tarika Blue album. He did not appear on this, but his brother did. So I sent him a message today and I said, hey, can you verify that this is a legitimate release that's being put out by Chiaroscuro, which I think has been scooped up probably by somebody else. I don't think they're still active, but maybe they are. So I'm still trying to determine whether this is a legitimate release, because if it is, I am definitely getting it. This is one of those albums that goes for like $1,000 or something, in great shape in terms of an original pressing. So if this is a legitimate release, I think it is super exciting. And so what I'm gonna do is I will update this video. I'll pin a comment sort of at the top of the comments once I find out if this is a legitimate release and if there's any details that I know about it, because who knows, right? Maybe it's a needle drop recording that they're putting out. Maybe it's not going to be high quality. I have no idea, but again, I know that it's being reissued. All right. So the next one, I've mentioned this in prior videos. I've mentioned my love for BBE J Jazz series. This is barely breaking even, the label. They've put out a Japanese jazz series that I end up buying most of. And this particular title is Hideyasu Terakawa Quartet, and it is simply live. I believe it's just the Hideyasu Terakawa live album. This is a double LP, originally released in 1978. This is the first time it's ever had a reissue. It was originally put out as a private press album, and the quantity that they originally put it out is like less than 100 copies. So it is extremely rare, extremely difficult to get an original copy of, and so therefore, for anybody who wants to now hear the music on vinyl, here's an opportunity. It's an interesting album in that it's not original music. It actually features compositions from Wayne Shorter, from Frank Foster, Milt Jackson, and Percy Heath. In any event, the price on this is 37 euros and 50, what do you even call it? Sub-euros? 37.5 euros? Is that what they call it? I have no idea. I don't know. But in any event, that's the European price. Here's the thing: as soon as it's actually released, it'll probably be based on the currency conversion, and so I can't tell you what it's going to be in dollars yet. But anyway, that's what it is. I've already pre-ordered my copy and can't wait to get it. Okay, so that is everything on January 20th. All right, so moving on, January 27th. So just a week later, we have an album by, the artist is called Hiromi, 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 and the album is Silver Lining Suite. This is on the Telarc Jazz label, not one I'm familiar with, but I did preview some of this, and I personally think it sounds really interesting. I think it's worth at least previewing. It is on a double LP, 45 RPM, $29.98. Out of everything on this list, that's probably the most sort of below the radar. But here's the thing, some of those below the radar albums end up being like the top of my list at the end of the year in terms of like best music. And so anytime that I even get an inkling of something that I think could be interesting, I want to talk about it. All right. Also on January 27th, Brian Blade. So he's putting out an album called Lifecycles Volume 1 and 2. The title continues. It's Lifecycles Volume 1 and 2. And the rest of the title is Now, exclamation point, referencing the Bobby Hutcherson album. So Now and Forevermore, honoring Bobby Hutcherson. It's a very long title. This is on Stoner Hill Records. It's a 3 LP album with the blank F side. So that means there's 5 sides of music and the 6th side is blank. But that's a ton of content. It is only $39.98. I say only because, again, that's a ton of content. And the fact that he's honoring Bobby Hutcherson, I think it could be interesting. All right, so that's everything that is in January that I wanted to cover. All right, some great stuff in February. So February 3rd, we have, and I've alluded to this in prior videos, Oscar Peterson's Night Train. So this is on the Verve Acoustic Sounds series. It is 180 gram vinyl, pressed at QRP, mastered by Ryan Smith at Sterling Sound, from the original analog tapes, of course. It is the Stoughton print and gatefold, because that's what the Verve Acoustic Sound series does for like every title. $38.98. Super excited about that, because Oscar Peterson's We Get Requests is one of my favorite jazz reissues that I mentioned in one of my prior videos of the entire year in 2022. And who knows, Night Train may make the list for 2023. I'm sure it's going to sound fantastic. Also, on a similar note, in terms of it probably sounding fantastic, we have another tone poet coming out on February 3rd. It is Donald Byrd at the Half Note Cafe. 180 gram vinyl in stereo, mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio from the original master tapes. Plated and pressed at RTI, gatefold tip-on jacket. All of these things should be expected when it comes to to Tone Poet and to the Acoustic Sounds series. But anyway, this title, $38.98. Obviously, this is one that saw the light of day back in the day, and so I don't know whether I'm going to get it. Because generally speaking, I buy the stuff that that hasn't previously been reissued like in its sort of chronological order. But what I'm probably going to do is listen to my original copy of this and say, you know what, is this, try to like suss out whether this is the best it can get or whether I need another copy. So we'll see about that. All right. Also on February 3rd, we have the Eddie Lockjaw Davis box set. Okay, so this is by Craft Recordings as part of their Concord sort of sub-label, and the name of the box set is called Cookin with Jaws and the Queen. So this is Eddie Lockjaw Davis and Shirley Scott. That's who they're referring to as the Queen. So there are 4 LPs here, 180 gram vinyl. It is limited to 5,000 copies. Newly remastered from the original analog tapes by Bernie Grunman, pressed at RTI, tip-on jackets, $124.98. Little bit of a side-eye here, because that's a lot of money, and traditionally Eddie Lockjaw Davis's stuff is not very sort of well appreciated. And I would say that materializes in the originals being not very expensive. And so what's always interesting to me is when you can get the originals for less money than the box set. I don't know that that's necessarily the case for these 4 titles, but it's probably pretty close. So I don't know. It could be interesting. It depends on how well it sounds. I think, excuse me, I can't even talk right now. I think I have each of the albums that are featured on this in this box set in their original form. So I'll have to think about that one, because $124, that's quite a bit for a box set. All right. Also on February 3rd, we have Dorothy Ashby's In a Minor Groove. This is on Real Gone Music. So they say it's sourced from the original mono tape, and it is $23.98. All right, here's like real talk or whatever. This is a extremely worthwhile album. Real Gone Music is putting it out, and it's $23.98, and they say it's sourced from the original mono tape. So I know that there's a lot of action around releasing Dorothy Ashby's stuff because she's kind of in vogue right now. I also have heard that there's another outfit that is trying to put out a bunch of her stuff, and it might include an audiophile version of this particular album. So, personally, even though normally just hearing that album would be coming out sounds exciting to me, the fact that they don't say all analog, and the fact that it's only $23.98 sounds like a budget copy to me. I will leave that up to you. That's just my opinion. All right. February 10th, The Birth of Bop, the Savoy 10-inch LP collection. This is also by Craft Recordings with their Concord sublabel. 5 LPs. They are not 180 gram vinyl, and you know why? Because they're 10-inch records. So they're actually putting out a 10-inch series, which is really interesting. It's kind of reminds me of what they did with the Miles Davis 10-inch series, where there's like 2 box sets, I think, and there's like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 albums in each or something. So anyway, these are 10-inch records, and what they're saying about it is it is newly restored and remastered audio. $99.98. I'm sure it's going to be great stuff, but also like the recording quality of that stuff back in the day was a little suspect. Here's the thing though, I would strongly guess that it sounds better in this format than whatever you could get in terms of the original pressings, because those 10 inches didn't hold up. So if you're interested in that early stuff, early bop like Charlie Parker, Fats Navarro, you know, that like probably Dizzy, like, you know, that kind of stuff, then you're probably going to be really excited about that. All right, actually only one more that I wanted to cover, and this is all the way at the end of the month. And so here's the thing, keep in mind that we don't even know some of the things that are coming out in probably even like late January into February, because these days, because of all the production delays, they have not wanted to sort of, you know, they haven't wanted to like broadcast what they're going to release until they're definitely sure that it's going to be released. And so that's why I think it's a little sparse right now in February. This is just what we know right now. And case in point, Art Pepper meets the rhythm section. This is Craft Recordings Contemporary Records 70th Anniversary Series on February 24th. You may remember that the mono version of this record came out during Record Store Day back in what, like April or June. They originally said that the stereo was going to come out in November, and so anybody who missed out on that mono copy for Record Store Day could get the stereo in November. Guess what? It got pushed. It got pushed first, I think, to January, then to March, then they brought it back to February. So hopefully we'll see it. I'm sure it's going to be great. But anyway, 180 gram vinyl in stereo, like I said, all analog mastering by Bernie Grunman, pressed at QRP, Stoughton printing, jacket, and $29.98. That one, even though I have an original, and even though I got that Record Store Day mono, gosh, I may end up getting that stereo. I'm not sure, but I bet it sounds great. That's the problem. All right, so that is the sort of the preview for the early part of 2023. I'm sure I'll do another update, not covering the same titles, but covering new ones that I didn't cover now once we get into the new year. But that is that. I just want to say that you know, I started this channel back in, I don't know, October, something like that. I don't know, maybe September. I appreciate everyone sticking with me this far. I actually get a lot of enjoyment recording these videos, because not only do I like talking about jazz, I actually like the thought process that I have to sort of put in order to prepare myself to make these videos and to like research and learn about all these reissues. Because here's the thing, I do pay attention to this stuff, but I like pay extra attention when I know that I'm recording a video on it. So anyway, I have fun. I hope you have fun watching these videos. And yeah, I'm looking forward to 2023 and doing a ton more of them. You know, similar cadence probably every 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days. You know, I'm not, I can't commit, but I do enjoy making them. So thanks very much for your attention. Please, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. It helps me a lot. Follow me on Instagram. You know, so whatcanbrown, even though it doesn't seem like it makes sense, that is my handle, what_can_brown on Instagram. I post every day there. And it's all like, you know, it's like almost exclusively original pressing, jazz, vinyl, and I usually do sort of reviews on each of those titles. So if you're interested in, I don't know, if you're interested in what I say about this stuff and you're interested, then you may be interested in what I say about some of these original pressings. So follow me there. And I hope everybody has a happy new year. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.